Hey, fellow Schneider drivers. Friendly Bill coming at you. This is going to be a quick video. I am sitting for a 34-hour restart. I got plenty of sleep. I'm going to get some exercise, and I'm going to take a shower and everything. I got to get going at 1 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. So I'm going to get everything kind of situated, get well rested, and so on and so forth. But this video is going to be about paying for parking. Should you ever pay for parking? Have I ever paid for parking? Is it worth it? And I'm going to talk about my experience because I am just a driver, just like you. I'm not a coach. I'm not a Viking. I'm not a recruiter. I'm just a driver giving my opinion. And paying for parking, nobody likes to pay for parking. Why would you want to pay for parking? That doesn't make any sense. Nobody wants to fork over $8, $10, $12, $15, $18 to park for the night. That's, nobody wants to do that. But should you ever pay for parking? And I can speak from my experience, and the answer is yes. I have paid for parking. In 4 years driving, starting brand new to the industry 4 years ago, had never driven a truck. I have paid for parking. I've paid for parking, I'd have to estimate maybe 10 times in 4 years. And some drivers take it as a point of pride. Oh, I've never paid for parking. I've heard that. Okay, well, you must have been in a situation where you didn't have to pay for parking. It's not like you get a crown for never paying for parking. It's, you must have been in a situation where you could have parked somewhere else, okay? I've had situations where I'm headed, if you work in the Northeast and you have to park somewhere, you better reserve a space. I know how the Northeast is. It's crazy. Philadelphia, New York, anywhere north of New York State, you're getting into Maryland and Connecticut, you're gonna pay for parking, and the sooner you make that reservation, the easier life is gonna be. I did work in the Northeast for about a year and a half, and then I moved out west, and there are places in the west that you have to pay for parking. If you deliver in Los Angeles and you're out of hours, guess what? You're gonna pay for parking. It's just a fact. Unless you want to park illegally. Now, if you're a person that is so against paying for parking that you'll park illegally, that's you can do that, but the ticket for parking is more expensive than paying for parking. So will you get caught, will you not get caught, that could be up for debate. Personally, I just pay for parking and go to sleep and not worry about it. But I've paid for parking maybe 12 times. When I was working in the Northeast, I've paid for parking. And even now that I drive to Los Angeles all the time, I do pay for parking occasionally. There have been situations where you pull into the truck stop and it's late and it's dark, and there's a parking spot available. Let's say the whole truck stop is filled up, but there's this one parking spot available. My advice is to be wary of that spot, because what may be happening is other drivers are trying to pull into that spot and realize that maybe because the truck on the nose end is too far out, or for some reason that spot, you can't get into it. That's why it's open. I'm not saying that's the case always, but sometimes that's the case, that if a spot's open, it might be open because nobody can get in there. And that happened to me. I pulled into a truck stop, and there was this spot open, and I tried to back in a couple times, and I kind of realized that the geometry just wasn't going to happen, and I just, instead of forcing the issue, I just went and paid for parking. I mean, some people, the paying for parking is a pride thing. Like, they refuse to pay for parking, and I understand that. I don't like paying for parking either, but there's nothing wrong with paying for parking. If there's no other spots and you don't want to have a log violation, you pay for parking. If you don't feel comfortable parking in the spot that's open, you pay for parking. It's simple. It's not you're not any less of a quality driver because you've paid for parking. You're paying for parking because it's a necessity. Nobody's paying for parking because they think it's fun. Okay, I have met drivers that their company pays for their parking, which I think is pretty awesome. Schneider does not pay for parking. Even if you send in the receipt, they will refuse it. I think it's cool that their company pays for parking, but I can kind of see why Schneider doesn't want to do that. I think Schneider thinks that if they will pay for parking, then Schneider drivers will immediately go to the closest spot and park, whether there's open spots or not. That's my opinion. I think that's why Schneider doesn't want to pay for parking. But either way, Schneider does not pay for parking. You're going to be paying for parking out of your own pocket, so it's always wise to avoid it if possible. But if you're running out of hours, if there's nowhere else to park, if you're really tired and just don't feel like driving anymore, just pay for parking. It ranges. I've seen as low as $8. I've seen as high as $20. And it stinks, I agree. I don't like it. But when it comes to possibly getting a bigger ticket, when it comes to possibly bumping another truck and having to report it to accidents and insurance, when it comes to being exhausted and causing an accident, I'll pay for parking. So, if you're a new driver, do not feel ashamed or pressured into not taking a pay for parking spot. Don't feel ashamed. Don't feel intimidated or feel like you're any less of a good driver for paying for parking. If you feel like paying for parking, do it. As you get more experience, the times that you're paying for parking will become fewer and fewer. But even the greatest driver in the universe eventually should pay for parking, unless they want to threaten DOT violations, or unless they're so full of pride for not paying for parking that they're willing to take risks. But paying for parking, it's not that big of a deal. Nobody likes it. That being said, Friendly Bill, catch you on the flip.